Talk about low-budget flights. No food or movies? I'm out of here. I like running better. Welcome back, YouTube viewers, to another video. Alright, so today's video is a concept I've had in my head for a while, just haven't gotten around to until now, which a lot of these tend to be those. And that is the revisionist history of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, this is something that I've heard people talk about before, and I thought it might be an interesting idea because there's definitely a lot I have to say on certain cases of it. Now, if you don't know what that means, I'll just briefly tell you it's something like happened one way or people perceived something one way. So this is just a random example. Let's say a random video game. Let's say Mega Man X2 or whatever. People said it was amazing for a long time. Then all of a sudden, people start saying it's terrible and it was always terrible. Nobody ever said it was good. That's what that would mean. And the Sonic series has had a few examples of this, both good, plus people saying a game that was held as good is now bad, and vice versa. So, without further ado, let's dive on into this. Okay, so the adventure games are sort of an example of this. So, SA1 came out in 1998, SA2 came out in 2001. And for the entirety of the 2000s, I'd say all the way up to 2011, 2012 even, these games were pretty well liked by basically everyone. People were singing the praises of the adventure games, especially Sonic Adventure 2, which I could definitely agree with. They were saying how these are the peak of the series and how great they were. Now, I recently did a video on how I don't think SA1 is that good, but I don't agree with a lot of the criticisms it gets. Not all of them anyway, but anyway, the thing is though, for the rest of the 2010s and even up until let's say 2022, these games all of a sudden people started hating them. As it's been discussed before, it's not like once upon a time everyone thought Sonic Adventure 2 was a 10 out of 10 until Game Grumps told them otherwise, like Jay's reviews said. But what it means is that, yeah, for a long time people really liked these games, how great they were. But then all of a sudden, once you start like these big reviewers who play these games for the first time, or IGN re-reviewing SA1 saying how this was terrible the whole time, and nobody ever said it was good actually, and then everyone started saying, yeah, this was terrible the whole time. We didn't know what we were talking about. It happened to a lesser extent for SA2, but it still really happened for both these games. Like, you had people going from saying that, wow, Shadow's story was surprisingly really good, the whole thing about Maria and the Biolizard and Gerald Robotnik, and then you had people saying how that story was garbage and how over the top and dark and serious and edgy it was and how lame it was and how we were just so wrong the whole time for ever saying it was good. But then around 2022, once the series finally started to be respected again, people are saying, wow, Sonic Adventure 2 sure was good, huh? Yeah, Sonic Adventure 1 was also really good. People are just saying that again. I mean, we got last year, the year of Shadow, Shadow Generations, people saying, not just new fans who are seeing the story of Shadow and Maria and Gerald saying how, wow, that was a good story, but also old fans who before were looking at it for a second time and saying, you know what, that story was good. I don't know what we were thinking about turning it on and all of a sudden in the 2010s. I mean, we just got an entire blockbuster movie based on that story a few months ago. So while I'd say these games did go through revisionist history, I'd say they're out of it now. Shadow the Hedgehog is the real reason I wanted to make this video. I think this game is awful. I think basically everyone said this game was awful for over a decade, and why wouldn't you? The controls are incredibly slippery and glitchy. To be edgy, the game decided to have Shadow wield guns, swear, and just be a huge jerk who now thinks that no friendship isn't worth anything. Like, even if you think that Shadow is a meaner character than I do, he still doesn't change the fact that he's supposed to have a team, Rouge and Omega. The entire last game, his story is about him bonding with them and accepting the fact that even if he has amnesia, even if he doesn't remember anything about his past, and sure, he wants to know what's the whole business with the Shadow androids Dr. Eggman was making, but he says right before the final level of his campaign in Heroes, even if I'm not real, I'm still the ultimate life form, Shadow the Hedgehog. He accepted that. So, well, having a sequel that explores more about his past, having him recover from his amnesia, that's a cool idea. But the entire time, pretty much, Shadow is a loner who tells everyone to shove off. And then that's not everything. I mean, whether it be just the fact that the voice acting is not good. Like, I'm not even just saying that because I'm not the biggest fan of some of the 4Kids voice actors, because I do really like some of them. It's just that their line delivery is so over the top. It's so overacted. You got the fact that Black Doom is an incredibly stupid villain. He is, guys. I mean, you have this whole choose Shadow's morality. Is he a hero? Is he a villain? Or is he somewhere in between? Shadow's a hero. Like, the last game was literally called Sonic Heroes. How do you go from that to motorcycle riding in the dark rain with fire shooting guns? And look, I do think Shadow using a motorcycle is pretty cool, but the guns were way too much. I'm not saying that realistic gun cities, militaries shouldn't exist in the Sonic series because why couldn't they exist? I mean, as the adventure games show, that can work, and yeah, there's nothing in the classic games to say that doesn't make sense. It's just that the way this game goes about it, or I've even come around the fact that maybe Shadow's whole backstory with the Black Arms isn't such a bad idea. The problem wasn't necessarily the idea; it's the execution. And then you have the fact that you must play through this incredibly repetitive and poorly designed game 10 times to reach the last story. And you don't even, all those hours you spent, you don't even know what the canon story is, because all that is canon in this game is the opening cutscene in the last story. So you just see Shadow getting a message from Black Doom telling him how the promised time is nigh upon us and all that, and he says, well, if I'm going to find the secrets to my past, I need to get those Chaos Emeralds. And of course, like, I'm rewatching Sonic X Season 3, just finished it. Every time I listen to Shadow's Jason Griffith voice now, I just think of Shadow the Hedgehog. Why does that name haunt me? It's the only thing I can remember. That line was just so weirdly delivered to me, I just find it really funny, but other stuff too, like the game is supposed to be dark and serious, but it has the heroes' character models, which are really colorful and shiny and just don't fit into this. Got this crazy story about an alien invasion, the gun commander being a complete joke of a character. This game is what began the Dark Age of Sonic. I think most people could agree with that. I like to refer to it as the second Dark Age of Sonic, because, we have that period in between Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic Adventure, but this game began Sonic's status as the joke, which it wouldn't shake for over a decade. 06 did not start it, 06 solidified it, because this game could have been a fluke. Oh, if only it were. Because, this game did sell well. It reviewed really poorly when it came out. The worst reviews for Heroes when it came out said the game was mediocre. Most people said it was pretty good, even if not as good as the previous games. But people said this game was just awful. And for a long time, everyone rightfully said this game is just terrible. I think the best example of it is Jay's Reviews video, Why Shadow the Hedgehog was a failure. It's an hour long, but it goes along basically everything that was wrong with this game. Sure. Maybe it offers some interesting ideas for Shadow's character arc. Him saying how, my past doesn't matter. It's convoluted, it's painful, but you know what? It just doesn't matter. I'm letting go of it. Goodbye forever, Shadow the Hedgehog. Which is something that Shadow Generations followed up on over a decade later with the whole accepting that his past will always matter. He just doesn't need to let it chain him forever. The problem is that, while that may be an interesting idea for Shadow's character, the story is so all over the place and messed up, it just makes it so that it's really hard to even get that message, because the whole time, all you're just seeing is Shadow shooting guns and swearing, and how did Takashi Iizuka direct the adventure games and Heroes and then go to this? I don't know why, because this game was made to chase trends. Big, violent, more serious video games were a big thing back then. Mid-2000s, gotta chase that dollar sign. But these days, for the past few years, you have these people saying how, you know what, guys? Shadow the Hedgehog was actually good the whole time. It's not like they're saying, you know what, maybe that game wasn't so bad after all. They're saying, no, it was always good. They act like it was always good and this game was never bad. They're saying how, oh, no, it actually didn't mess up Shadow's character, or, well, yeah, but he doesn't actually use guns in the story. He only uses guns in the opening cutscene of the gameplay, but so what? Look, I'm not necessarily opposed to gimmicks in these games, but I think we all rather play as just Shadow and not Shadow has to use a gun the whole time. You can't just play as him regularly. People say how the story was actually really interesting and deep, and the story is a complete mess because it's split across 10 campaigns and a last story, all of which barely have anything to do with each other. It's not like they're different perspectives on the story, like the adventure games or Heroes. No, they are different versions of a story. Or as Jay's reviews point out in his review, let's just do one random playthrough he did of it. You see the gun commander in one scene. He seems to know Shadow, and then he never shows up again. You're wondering, who was that guy? Oh, well, if you play the game a bunch of other times, you'll see his backstory with Shadow. What about the Shadow androids? Well, I don't know. It just some campaigns say Shadow is an android, some say he's not, and people just say no, that was actually good the whole time, guys. We were just wrong. Look, this game isn't completely terrible. Like, yeah, I think it has some cool level themes, even if they aren't the most well executed control-wise and things like that. I think it has a pretty good soundtrack, even though it's probably Jun Sonoe's weakest work, but I just don't understand why people say this game was actually good the whole time. This video is probably more than half of this video is probably just gonna be me ragging on Shadow the Hedgehog, but it's important to know just how bad this game was and just how it messed up Shadow's character, messed up the franchise. But no, now we've got people saying that was actually good the whole time. I mean, I do think some of the imagery Sonic Movie 3 invokes from it was cool, but there's a difference between just having a few cool images and just completely butchering your entire franchise. Like, oh, whatever. Sonic 06? Question mark, because I don't know necessarily to say that this game has gone through revisionist history so much as people's opinions have just changed on it. And that is, look, we can all acknowledge it like this. Sonic 06 had a lot of problems. It did do irreversible damage to the series that it took nearly 20 years until that damage is finally going away. And even then, you still got, a few weeks ago, or a month ago, I got recommended a video that said it was from only a few days ago called Sonic 06 Just Bad Games, and it's something like 3 hours long. People just cannot escape how much they hate on Sonic 06. But yeah, past few years, people have been willing to say what was good about this game. And to be ironically, for over a decade, saying what was bad about this game was a cliche, and now saying what is good about a game that was absolutely reviled is now a cliche. What is good about it, though? Sure, maybe that's the regular cutscenes outside the CG ones aren't that well presented, but there's some good writing, you know. Silver and Shadow stories especially have some really good moments. The soundtrack is great, not my favorite Sonic OST, but still pretty good. The game had a lot of cool ideas, a lot of great level themes and level design, as we can see through things like Sonic P06. Stuff like the levels. The levels weren't bad because they were poorly designed. They were bad because the characters' controls were just awful. The game was clearly unfinished, but being super unfinished doesn't necessarily mean your game was always going to be bad. Nothing could save it. I mean, who knows how the series would have turned out if Sonic 06 were a success? JebZone did a good video on that, a timeline where Sonic succeeds. I mean, yeah, the game has some genuine flaws, like I mentioned, the controls. The fact that Sonic's story has nothing to do with the rest of the story. Some of the voice acting. Elise, I don't need to go into that. We all know why she is just terrible. But overall, I mean, the game still sold well, apparently. That's why the series even still kept on going. Nearly every other franchise, if they suffered a loss like Sonic 06, they would have just been dead. But no, so yeah, I think at this point people are just saying Sonic 06 had a lot of issues, but we shouldn't be trying to rag on everything it stood for, because we eventually got to a point where these games had just become so unlike what they were in the 90s and 2000s that we started to see that this wasn't bad because it was just bad. We were saying that having a big story isn't the problem. The problem was the story just clearly didn't have enough time to develop. Having fully 3D levels wasn't a bad thing. The controls were just bad. You get it, you know. It's not a good game, but it's far from the worst thing ever. I wouldn't even say it's the worst main series game. Sonic Unleashed? This one is more so personal than something I think can stretch about the entire fan base, but last year I played Unleashed on Xbox Series S, and you know what? I had a really good time with it. I enjoyed it, but I gotta say, I don't think this is one of the greatest Sonic games ever made. I don't understand how anyone says this is the best Sonic game. Yeah, I agree it's a great experience, but the actual game, well, it does have some great levels, a great soundtrack, a pretty good story, some amazing cutscenes, really cool level aesthetics and themes, but when this game came out, it was reviled. I mean, this was the second mainline game to release after Sonic 06, and the other one was Sonic and the Secret Rings, which, was a Wii exclusive, wasn't going to be as big a deal as Unleashed. So, only 2 years after 06, seeing Sonic the Werehog was not going to win people over. I think we can all agree on that. But yeah, for a long time, this game was just hated. Yeah, not as hated as 06 or Shadow 05, but still pretty disliked. But in the past few years, you have these people saying that, you know what? Sonic Unleashed was actually one of the best Sonic games ever made. And look, a video game is subjective at the end of the day because it's interactive entertainment. There are things about it that are objective, but there's still many things about it that aren't. For example, do you have fun playing it or not? I had fun playing Sonic Unleashed, but I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as other people did. But yeah, I still feel like things really have shifted on this game. Stuff like Unleashed Recompiled, just want to say. Unleashed Recompiled looks amazing, but if you need a bunch of mods to make a game really good, to me that just says something about the quality of the game. Like, I'm not saying the game is necessarily bad. Sometimes mods can make something already great better, but I mean, like, if you need a bunch of mod stuff like, can you turn off the Werehog battle music or not? Because that's not something that should be in a base game. That's just something that the game should either have or not have. The music, I mean, like, that either a game would have annoying music that plays nonstop or it wouldn't. If you need a mod to save it, that just tells me that why did you even include the music in the first place? In conclusion, I don't know, I just thought this was an interesting topic to discuss. I mean, because, yeah, most of this video is just me ragging on Shadow the Hedgehog, but that's something I really wanted to do because I don't think I've actually gone around to it yet, and I've made over 100 videos. So, comment down below what you thought of this, because I'm sure you guys have some different perspectives on this than I do. Well, that's all for now, and remember to stay way past cool.